I don't know about you, but there are times that I just get stuck on something. And sometimes that's a good thing. After all, I'm a writer, and it's good to be a little obsessive about details when you're a writer. And other times it doesn't work at all. And I was very young. I was like 9 years old when I knew I wanted to be a writer, and I paid 10 cents out of my allowance to buy a little black and white. Remember those notebooks? Well, maybe you don't, depending on your age. And I brought it home and I wrote my name on it, and I said this, and I put a little rose on it, and I said, this is going to be my writing book. And I showed it to my mother, who put it away in a drawer, never to be seen again. Because I was born into the silent generation. So that was from the late 1920s to the 1940s, and I was born in the 1940s. And that was the time of conformity, and people did not, and loyalty to the workplace. That was a really important thing, especially after the war. So, and then came the boomers, and the main thing that happened was then came the contraceptive pill. And that's what liberated women. Never mind all the other laws. That's what liberated women, because we no longer had to be virgins when we married, or have to prove it. Sometimes you still have to prove it. Apparently, Princess Diana had to prove it before she married Charles, which would have been to me a big no. Right? But one of the things I do remember was always being warned, you know, you have to learn the rules. You have to learn the rules. I'm going, what are the rules? What are the rules? They don't want to tell you the rules, because the rules are pretty strict for women. And in my generation, a woman could be a teacher, a married, a homemaker, or a secretary. That's what was it. And the thing about that is, okay, teacher, secretary, homemaker. A woman could not rent an apartment in New York City by herself. I guess it was assumed that we were being supported by a man, and that was illegal because we were not married to a married man. There's a wonderful movie, by the way, called The Apartment with Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon. I think it was made in 1961. You want to know a little bit about the history of how the rules were applied. I mean, it's like South Korea today. Sorry about that, Korea. I hope you grow up soon. So I recently got stuck on my idea of how I should be living in my old age. You all know I'm about to be 85. And that was really harming me. When I turned 80 or 81, my friends were like in a panic. Oh my God, you can't live alone anymore. I'm going, really? Why not? Oh no, what if something happens? And that's an interesting way to live. Why don't they say that to 20-year-olds or 18-year-olds who are living alone? What they mean is you could die and nobody would find your body. But that could happen to anybody. So after 2 years of living by myself and having a housekeeper who came every morning from 9 to 11, I'm a single person, and I'm a fairly neat person. So she did other things for me, which was nice. I had to go to Costco, as you all know, and she would shop for me at Costco. But I really began to see, I was losing ground instead of gaining ground. And that's when I decided, I moved first, which was an interim step. And then I realized I was going to have to buy a place and, just live until I die. You know what I mean? Just try not to trip and fall. That's my big thing. And that's one thing people overlook about people who are my age is most of us die after a fall. Don't fall. Don't fall. Keep me back. And I will say something to you about how I am crazy with my balance. If you are mobile and capable, you should start now, if you don't already. When you put on slacks, put them on one leg at a time. Start balancing. Just start balancing so that you don't, when you trip, I did this morning, but I instantly righted myself. You want to have good balance. Good balance is connected to longevity. Carry your own groceries. That's the other thing they've discovered. People who live a long time. We're capable of carrying our own groceries. Oh my God. It's sad. Anyway, I did survive that, and I became a writer. And one of the things they didn't tell you, and we all know now, is that women are just paid less. We're not only paid less than men, pretty much. And maybe if you're a police person or a fire a person, a woman or man, that isn't happening because a lot of them are government and state run, and the laws now are saying, hey, you can't you have to pay them equally. If you're working on an oil rig, you got to be paid the same as a guy if you're a woman working on an oil rig. But not only didn't it exist, but also in the 1980s, we had a certain president who came in. You might remember him. He used to be a movie actor, and he still acted his way through the administration, and they basically did away with unions. It was really a very harsh time for everybody, I think. Certainly for air controllers, they were the first to get rid of them. But there's always been that underlying thing that I grew up in when I was born into, that silent generation of conformity and tradition and loyalty to the corporation. And, honestly, I see it coming back now. I'm going like, really? You're going to be loyal to the corporation? I think those people got stuck. I once had a boyfriend about 25 years ago, and he was the last. That was when I went, I can't do this anymore. This is it. But he was a very nice man. He was an engineer, and he worked in the aerospace industry. And what happened was, the company he worked for was huge. It was a huge aerospace company. But for about 2 years, they kept saying, we're going to be closing down. We're going to be closing down. We're going to be closing down. And he worked for them since he graduated from college, 18 years. And he never put out a resume. And he never looked for a job. And finally, his department was down to 3 people. And I said, geez, you want me to help you with your resume? No, he didn't. And one day, of course, he was fired. He was let go. He wasn't fired for cause. He was let go. They were shutting it down. And now there are only 2 people left in his department, or maybe 1 department. So what happened was he spent like a year on the couch watching television. And I was like, now, I've been a freelance writer, and I've worked, I was an associate professor at universities. I'm used to like getting out there, getting out there. You do what you have to do. But he was used to a big daddy, a big corporation that took care of him. And actually, he had wonderful severance and also stock that he had acquired for many years from it. So he wasn't in bad shape. He was in emotionally bad shape because he was stuck. And of course, I broke up with him because, hey, after a year and a half, get over it or get out, right? Which is why you can see I've never been married, much to my mother's distress. Well, when I moved to Greenwich Village, and when I was like 21, I moved to Greenwich Village, this artist bohemian community in New York. I don't think so anymore. I think it's been gentrified like everything else, and you got to like make $200,000 a year to be able to live there. But when I lived there, my apartment was $60 a month. Thank you very much. And it was up 5 stories, and I thought, wow, I'm the luckiest girl in New York City. And she just said, oh, no decent man will ever marry you. And that was an implication that I was used goods. And that was the big, big thing of the 50s, that women, well, that's why my mother was terrified of living alone. When she got a divorce, she had to rapidly marry a man she just kind of didn't really love. Didn't work out well. They were 40 years together hating each other, but they adapted to the expectations of society, which I've never done. No, that's not true. Well, I worked in Hollywood. I tried. And what I noticed is that when I dated men who were appropriate, who I thought, somebody I could marry, and maybe we talked about it or hinted at it, in the end, they broke up with me. And they married a woman who would help their careers, whether it was because she came from a very good university and I didn't, or a family, or whether she was just ready in her life to go home and have kids. And which is certainly a viable choice. And I know there are many single women, my agent, who never married. When she was about 40 years old, she adopted a boy. She wanted to have a child, and she wanted to be a mother. I went through that stage. I was actually a foster mom for a couple of years. That woke me up. It's a rough job. And I don't know if it's rougher for a foster mom with 2 they were adolescents, boys. One was 15, one was 13. And every night they would fight. They were brothers, and they would fight. And I would say, our home is a sanctuary. This is where we come for peace. They also hated that I was mostly vegetarian, and I would give them like ground turkey hamburgers instead of hamburgers. They couldn't wait to get out of here, by the way. And they had a very good opportunity to leave. A school was open, an academy for foster kids, because if you don't know this, foster kids, when they turn 18, almost always wind up homeless because they have no support. But this supported them and not only helped them with skills, but also helped them rent an apartment for like, I don't know, 6 months or a year. And actually they did very well. One boy went into business and one boy became a film editor, and I'm very happy about that. So I think, I did say that I started out stuck, and the stuck that I was that I should live a certain way in a certain house, because I'd always owned houses. And this time I bought a manufacturing home. I bought a lot, so I own it, never mind this rental stuff. And it's an enormous job to renovate it. I almost could have bought a house for the same price. But it's mine. And what I got, the most thing, and I'll show you one day, is a garden. And all these beautiful brand new houses that they're building all around here that look like big white rectangles, they only have these tiny little places. And again, one of the things you want when you get older is a reason to go outside. So I'm adjusting to that. And one day I'll show you what we did here.